Hi guys, we love you. Um, an update on Gabrielle Barrett, Barrett. She was four, 4.5 years old on New Year's Day, 2018. Candice Diaz um, was her mother, um, who gave birth to her. The animal. She doesn't deserve the title of a mother, but she gave birth to her. On November the 8th, 2018, she has made her plea. She struck a plea deal and pleads guilty to second-degree murder, first-degree child abuse charges. Torture and felony murder charges were dropped as part of the plea deal. Diaz, Candace Diaz, and her boyfriend Brad Fields were both accused of abusing and killing Diaz, the little girl that was 4.5 years old in January, the time of her death. Um, Her daughter, Gabby, as she likes to be called. Gabby was her nickname. This child was only in the custody of her mother for a short time, and in this short time, they abused her, tortured her to death. And I can't understand why this woman had got her kid back um, and did this to her. Why did she give her back to her grandparents? Why didn't she give her back to her mother? If her kid was in danger, hand her back to her mother. But her grandmother said that, she had no choice but to give her back because she was only the grandparent and she didn't have no rights to her as legally and couldn't prove nothing. And obviously they didn't get, I don't know why the grandparents didn't file some kind of legal thing to say that this girl would be in danger, but her mother didn't, because maybe she thought she wouldn't be killed or anything like that. But anyway, um, the reason why her grandmother had her for such a long time was because it was her. She must have known her daughter was doing drugs out there in left field. I've been in trouble before. Apparently, has had boyfriends that abused her, beat her up, was going to shoot her dead, shot her dog. Um, the police were called in 2016 to that house. Apparently, I'm not sure if it was the same boyfriend. Probably was. The house stunk, flies, dirty, piss, shit, you name it. All things were going on in that house. But at that time, she hadn't had no other children at that time. Because apparently her child was 1 years old, her other daughter. So maybe she wasn't born at that time. They found cocaine, drug use. The boyfriend was loopy tunes, suffered from bipolar or something like that, wasn't taking his medication right. She gave him all kinds of excuses. And I think they had guns in the house, quite a few guns that the police found and everything like that. So she got in a lot of trouble for all that and the other. So this house was a dope house, if you ask me. You know, just like a dope house. Stunk, and it was degrading situation for anybody. It wasn't. No human should be living in that house, even a dog. That's cruel to a dog to make them live in such conditions. But they were worse than a dog. Anyway, so the mother, in about uh, September 2017, the mother had got hold of her and took her back to her home to live. And this is where it starts. This is where the torture starts. And this little girl was tortured. She was put in closets. She was locked up. She was starved. Her hair was pulled out by the roots. She was made to wrap herself in a plastic bag to keep warm for punishment. The little girl was peeing herself, and she let her sit in her piss, because that's what she said. She peed herself so she can lay in it. You know, this mother took video of her torturing the kid, abusing her, and pictures, and sent them to her boyfriend. I don't know who else she sent them to, but she thought it was rather funny to torture her child. This child had so many bruises on her and probably fractures, maybe a broken bone or two. This girl was skin and bone. This girl wasn't eating. She was being starved. She wasn't being fed. Now, if this little girl was going to school from September, she was going to school. For Christ's sake, nobody see this? Nobody see this, how this little girl was looking? Her hair, and she was getting thin, and she had all like marks on her body. You know, when you've been starved, you know, your skin starts falling off, you know, getting thin, scabs. I mean, all those kind of things. Nobody noticed this at school? Nobody? Nah. Apparently so. This little girl could have been saved if only somebody stepped in. A normal, healthy little girl turns into a skeleton, hair falling out, hair being pulled out, hair loss. She was drugged up, and she was beaten over a period of time. This mother is not human. They both are not human. Poor little Gabby. But one thing good came out of this, like I say sometimes. Bad things happen, but good things happen too. She had a 1-year-old daughter, which Gabby loved to play with. Her sister, her little baby sister, will be saved and will not suffer the same fate as her sister did, because this little girl is in safe arms now, being taken care of. Thank God. You know, apparently, I don't know if it's because of the baby was too young, but I didn't hear like the baby was being abused, and the baby was still alive for 1 year. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know if this mother hated Gabby. I don't know if she hated the father, so she hates the daughter. But why did you take her off her grandparents? Why didn't you just leave her where she was? If you don't like your child or don't have the patience for her, why did you take her back? Did you take her back just to abuse her? Well, I don't know. But she was treated like a dog. She was treated worse than a dog. Her skin fell off her bones, and they found skin in the sink, in the drains. They found her hair in the drains. Her hair was pulled out by the roots. A so-called mother, an animal of a mother. She abused this kid. This kid could not defend herself. And she strangled her to death. She suffocated this child. She strangled her. And then she says it was an accident. It was an accident. Why is she in the bathtub? Well, 'cause she's bad. You know, she's bad. This girl's bad. She likes to, I don't know, but this woman was making up all kinds of arguments to say why her child ended up dead. Um, this Candace Diaz had called her mother up and said something to her, come over, because there's something wrong with Gabrielle. She's not breathing. Something to that effect. She's not breathing. Um, and then she just went on. And her mother said, yes, I'll be on my way. But her mother lived quite away from her. Um, I, I don't know, but at least 45 minutes or so. She did live quite away from her. And in the meanwhile, she didn't know that the daughter hadn't called 911 or anything like that. She just said um, that she's not breathing. And she said, but a little bit later, she calls her mother up again, said, oh, it's okay. You don't need to come over. You don't need to come over. And her mother said, no, I'm nearly here. I'm here now. And a little while later, she pulled up outside her door and then went in the house. I don't know what's up with her mother too, but you know, her mother's elderly, more elderly, and a bit more slower. You know, I don't know what's like. They're like a bunch of rednecks or something. I don't know what's wrong with them. And she's got to known her daughter was on drugs. Look at the state of her. If you ever seen her pictures, look at the state of her. Oh my God, you know they were taking meth and all that kind of stuff. One look at them, and you know they're on drugs. And God knows how they could afford drugs, cocaine and meth and all that. I don't know. No. But anyway, the mother comes in and it just goes on like that. And the grandmother said she was there for a while, but this had been a long time since she had called and said her daughter wasn't breathing as such. And then she kind of goes in there and the boyfriend said he's given CPR. He's given CPR. But really he wasn't given CPR. But she kind of didn't really see if he was given CPR. But apparently, in between all this, that she got back onto the 911. This time she calls 911 because then she had told her mother that she had called 911, but she couldn't get through because her phone's not working properly. The service is bad where she lives, and she couldn't get a hold of 911. But she eventually did get a hold of 911, and the ambulance and the police came. But you know what? It was all a little too late for this little girl, Gabby, because she had been dead a long time before that. And she's dead. Because the mother strangled her to death. But she didn't tell her mother that. Oh no, she didn't tell her mother everything while she was there. Her mother kind of had to find out as it went along. And so after that, when the police came, um, I don't know if they ran off that day or, you know, they got the little girl to the hospital, whatever they did and everything. And then um, the hospital and the nurses and the doctors said they've never seen such a case of child abuse. They said her body was disgusting in deplorable conditions. And apparently, I think it was right there and then that this Brad and Candace took off. They took off and they ran because they knew they were going to have charges filing upon them for the death of her daughter. Anyway, a manhunt went on for the arrest, the warrant of arrest for Candace Diaz and her boyfriend Brad Fields. He's 29, she's 25. So the manhunt was on, and they eventually were picked up in Georgia. They were in Michigan. They got picked up in Georgia by the state patrol, the patrol, the police. They caught them, and it was on videotaped, and they were put into custody and charged for first-degree murder and taken back to Michigan. The judge in this case, the judge is a lady. She's a black lady, and she let rip into Candace Diaz. She told her the meaning of a mother, what a mother is, the meaning of it. But you killed your daughter for a bum, Brad. Brad is the boyfriend, and the judge called him a bum. Your boyfriend, that bum, you gave your daughter drugs, put her in a garbage bag, you starved her, you tortured her, and you laughed about it. You videoed it. So you both killed your daughter. You both killed your daughter. You then send out Christmas cards. You send out Christmas cards and you put the name on the Christmas cards. Candace, Brad, and Zoe. The Christmas cards in 2018. No mention of Gabrielle. You didn't even put Gabrielle's name on them Christmas cards. No, because you knew she would not be alive to see another Christmas. You knew she wouldn't be alive to see Christmas or another Christmas. See, Gabby was supposed to be a part of your life. The judge said, I've had 25 years as a judge and a lawyer. This child had burns on her. You burnt her with cigarettes. She had them all over her body. She had vomit in her lungs. You put scalding hot water on her body that took her skin off. Her hair pulled out while she was alive. She was in the bathtub like a dog, skin hanging off her body. Skin hanging off her body. Oh, and this is her mother. Bruises all over her body. Her eyes were hazy. Septic shock had been running through her body. Her body was poisoned. You never gave her treatment. You never took her to a doctor. This little girl suffered a torturous death at the hands of you two, the bum and a so-called mother. You are disgusting. I wish I could sentence you to more. But as you've made your plea deal, I'm going to sentence you to the maximum I can give you. 30 to 60 years. Eligible maybe for up for parole, but not for 30 years. But 30 to 60 years she gave this woman. She said, I'm going to put you in a cage like you did your daughter. And you can live in a cage like an animal for the rest of your life. She says, I wish I could give you more. Take her away. This judge can't stand her. She cannot stand this woman. This judge is like never seen nothing like it in all her years she's been a judge. This judge was so disgusted about everything, and she's disgusted that this child, nobody caught it. Social workers, nobody. Doctors, anybody. The school, nobody said nothing. The grandmother, she didn't say nothing neither, because she says she didn't see nothing. But I think the grandmother did try, but nobody was listening to her. She didn't want her to leave her home. She wanted her to stay with her. I mean, the child was doing pretty good with her. The child was alive. The child wasn't abused. The child was happy. The child was potty trained. But this was all turned around 360 degrees. Boy, this judge, you know, she let ripped into her and gave her mind, peace of mind. Let me tell you. So, you know, say rest in peace, Gabrielle, little Gabby. The angels have you in their arms, loving you. Um, let's discuss this video and your thoughts of this Candace Diaz, the way she tortured her little girl that she gave birth to, all for a dirty ass man who she says abused her. But she had many chances to get away from him, but she didn't. But why all this time she wanted to take her little girl away from her grandmother, only to torture her? And thank God the 1-year-old little girl is alive and being taken care of. The journey to justice. Thank you.